Let's watch this scene with Deepika and Nasir, and then I'll tell you why and how it connects to EFT. Let's watch.
उसकी जिंदगी उस एक गलती से बड़ी थी और तुम्हारी भी है. There was so much more to her. काश मैं भी समझ पाता कि भागने की जरूरत नहीं है. जो हुआ उसे एक्सेप्ट करो and always choose to move on.
Do my choices even matter, Papa?
ये जानने का तो एक ही तरीका है. You give yourself a chance.
I don't have the strength.
Oh, come on. It's right here.
So, in the last scene, we saw how Deepika just breaks down and she says, do my choices even matter? And her father says, you're not your mistake, you're not your one. He just says, तुम वो एक गलती नहीं हो. You're more than that. You need to accept it and move on, which is very powerful because, at the heart of it is what I see EFT as. Many times, without even realizing, we shrink ourselves or confine ourselves to a mistake or a pattern, regardless of where we are or which mistake we made. And we may not even realize it consciously. It's subconsciously directing so much of our narratives, thought processes, behavior, choices that we make. Actually, the scene continues on, and she says, I have become the one thing that I was running away from. And in this context of the movie, her mother actually. Ends up cheating on her father, and she also in some way does that, right? So she's like, I thought I idolized my mother, and now I've like become like her. Do we have independent choices? I remember when I was going to a EFT practitioner, I asked the same question. I feel like I'm repeating the same thing. Am I doing anything different than what my mother did, what choices she made? And he said something very similar as well. He's like, yes, you are making tiny choices. But this brings me to the major context of why I wanted to make this video. So much of our lives is run by invisible patterns. And like Carl Jung says, he says, until you make the unconscious conscious, you will keep repeating it and call it fate. I have met so many people over the course of my life, and people who say this always happens with me. This is who I am. This is how, I never get the promotion. I never attract good relationships. I never attract available people, or this is exactly how it happens with me and my mother. But at the core of it is always a pattern. There's an unmet need. There is an identity around that unmet need. So, for example, you didn't receive the love the way you wanted from a parent. That shows up in your subconscious choice to repeat that dynamic with a partner. So, you may go for people who are constantly unavailable. For example, you may somewhere you felt that you were not good enough when you spoke up, so you kind of are in work environment where you never get the credit, your work gets stolen, or anything like that could happen, right? But all of these are unconscious patterns, and once you start seeing the pattern, you can't unsee it. So how does EFT help in this? So usually what happens, people come in for like a surface problem. Sometimes someone who knows the patterns, then it's easier to work with them. But someone who doesn't know but knows something about EFT, they will come with something saying like, I'm exhausted. But if you dig deeper, like peeling the layers of an onion, something core belief is there, something would have happened, and then the body is trying to recover, right? So it is a pattern. So for example, you felt lonely, and then you started binge eating, and then it just continued, and now fast forward months later or years later, when a partner asks you, you're just like, no, that's how I am. No, you're not. It's just a coping mechanism. And you never realize that there is so much behind this. That loneliness covered the need for community. And when the need for community was not constantly met, you ended up choosing binge watching. You ended up choosing being lazy, not consciously, but subconsciously you did that. So, this is how unconscious patterns keep repeating because there's always an unmet need inside of it. There's a behavior. So, every second we are communicating. Even the people who say they're not, they communicate through actions. And why unconscious need is because sometimes patterns pass through generations. Pain passes through generations, whether we accept it or not, until someone feels it, until someone sees the pattern and says, this is where it stops. This is how EFT could help you, not just in discovering patterns of your ancestry specifically, but why certain things keep happening. How can you overcome it? This can go from professional to personal, and in many cases. So, what EFT does is layers of things because when we start tapping on certain specific points, the brain always tries to connect the dots, so to speak. So, if there is a memory where you did not feel respected or your idea was not taken up at work, for example, at a meeting, if we do couple of rounds, there will be some memory that is associated or some lingering feeling that is associated with it. So when we this is called table legs, so to speak. And when we work more on this, you will understand patterns. So maybe the next time you are in a situation, at least there's 1% chance that you can pick a different option. You can show up differently. And isn't that a beautiful thing to be at? Isn't that a beautiful choice to have? Even consider the possibility of having a choice. That's what I want for you. That's it for today with EFT, Carl Jung, and very surprisingly, Deepika Padukone. Thank you for watching.